Welcome back. A couple ladies on today. We have Joan Milliman and Elizabeth Morris of the Robert's Rule Study Club, and we're going to put up some slides in just a moment and go over some points. But first, Joan, briefly about the club.
Okay, briefly, we are a group who study Robert's Rules. This originated with Toastmasters a long time ago, and they just simply wanted to delve into, well, what are Robert's Rules and why are they important? And we use them all the time here in the village, in the board meetings and in committee meetings, and we just wanted to see more in depth how things should be done with these kinds of rules.
And Elizabeth, how are you involved with the group?
Well, I did a lot of work with student government through my professional life, and we always had to use Robert Rules of Order. And so when I heard they had this club, I was delighted to join it because they really go in depth, which I need to do. I'm not that versed in it, but I really enjoy the study club very much for that reason.
All right, today we're going to talk about, well, here's the topic, debate. And really, we have seen over the years in the board meetings, because let's face it, those are the ones that are televised, sometimes things come up that, you know, someone, the board president may or may not say, this is open for debate, or folks, right now, this is not open for debate. So let's just talk about for a moment, what are the rules? How is a debate opened?
Well, first of all, the debate is not there until a motion is made and seconded and the chair restates the motion. And that puts it on the floor for people to talk about for or against the motion. So the debate ensues.
Okay. So, and obviously, like, well, let's talk Robert's Rules. There are rules for the debate as well.
There are rules
right?
for everything in Robert's Rules. But in debate especially, there are 5 basic things that we have to remember. The first thing is that you're limited as to how many times you can speak on the subject. According to Robert's Rules, you can speak only twice on the same subject in one day. You can't save time or transfer it to someone else. And you can choose to let people ask you a question on your time. If you want to do that, that's fine. People who get preference in debate, well, it's kind of first come, first serve. You know, if you raise your hand first or stand, the chair designates the speaker. And you can't try to signal that you want to speak while someone else is talking, you know, waving your hand and yelling and screaming. But when
which does happen.
Yeah, it does. You know, they get so excited. When the previous speaker finishes, you can call to be recognized. But there are some exceptions as to first come, first serve. For example, it's accepted that the person who made the motion usually gets to speak first for the motion. And also someone who's not spoken at all can be recognized by the chair over someone else who's spoken. And then the third thing is if there are opposing points of view, the chair usually tries to alternate the speakers so that you get one for and one against. So the general rule to remember is that a member can establish entitlement to the floor by rising, or we use raising a hand, first after it's been yielded. But they can't establish entitlement to the floor by rising before it has been yielded. Raising your hand and waving it is not acceptable.
Now, some of the really important things of this is it. You must stick to the subject. To go off on an irrelevant subject is not in order. And if you're speaking about an amendment to a motion, the debate should, and the content should address that alone, not the main motion, just the amendment. So then if you're going to debate issues, you want to debate the issues, not the personalities. The proposal is the subject of the debate, not the member. And another one, if you're going to criticize a proponent's reasoning, it's different from criticizing the opponent personally.
Okay.
That's an important issue.
Don't want to do that.
Right.
Right. And under no circumstances do you attack or question the motive of another member. To disagree, you might say, and do it politely, I believe there is strong evidence that the member is mistaken. Or you could say, what you should never say, I'm sorry to say, is it should never be fraud, a liar, or he's lying. Never use terms of that derogatory nature.
And the fifth rule about debate is that you try to avoid personalities altogether. So you speak as though you're talking to the chair. This is tricky, not the other members. So, for example, you might say, Elizabeth,
Well, Mr. President, the last speaker's final point doesn't really make sense.
or if you want to ask a question,
You would say, such as, Madam President, would the treasurer please tell us how much money is in the treasury?
okay. So you avoid using names of other members in a debate. Instead, you use their titles, secretary, previous speaker, or
Okay,
okay, and then the degree of formality, of course, varies with the group, and sometimes they aren't that formal. But
right.
we try to avoid involving personalities in these
And
talks.
sometimes you're, for anybody who occasionally may watch C-SPAN, you'll see this. It may get out of hand. This year, it's probably gotten out of hand with Congress
With all the-
a lot. But they use the same situation quite often.
Yes.
They will look, there, of course, it's Mr. Speaker or Mrs. Speaker or
Yeah.
Miss Speaker. The last congressman that was up, I think they were mistaken in what they proposed or whatever it might be.
Right.
Again, I think that's changed this year, but
bit.
you understand.
Just yelling.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple tables we're going to bring up. A little hard to see, but
Okay.
you want to show these.
The reason I wanted to show that is because some motions are not debatable. And, but it's very confusing to most of us. There's so many motions, and you can see from this, and that's only one of the two
Right.
charts. This particular chart is found on Jim Slaughter's website. He has some handy things like this. You can just take it to the meeting yourself. But in the back of, I don't know if you want to show this, but in the back of the little book, Robert's Rules of Order,
Oh, this is more like a.
in brief,
Okay.
there are similar charts.
All right, so this is more of, here, there we go, we'll just do that. This is more of a handbook, a kind
Right,
of a carry
yes.
with you kind of,
It is.
instead of the big thick.
And it refers,
Size.
Yeah, exactly.
it refers to the big book,
Yeah,
which is over 400 and something pages. But,
okay.
but the big book has a number of charts also in the back, and they're the same. They're both in alphabetical order. I think this chart gives you an idea of if you want to
Okay.
do something like end the meeting, you can ask for adjournment, but it has to be voted on. Okay, notice across the top here, if you want to do, enforce the rules, you might say, I want a point of order. Okay, can you interrupt the speaker? Yes. Now, not all, you can't do this always. Does it require a second? No. Is it debatable? No. Can it be amended? No. What kind of a vote does it need? None. And what that means is, you have a point of order and you address the chair and say, point of order, the chair says, what is your point of order? You state it, and then it's either answered or it isn't.
Okay,
So there's no debate or a
Okay.
vote. But others, like an amendment and even ending the debate, has to be voted on.
okay, and on the next slide, limit or extent limits of a debate. That's a good point.
Yes, it is, and it's a very important one, because if everyone took full 10 minutes for a debate, it would take a very long time for a motion to come to a vote.
Right.
Then, of course, there are other ways that you can deal with that. You can either, you could read your motion or have it read in advance, or read it in private and know when you go to the club or the whatever meeting, you have your formation of what you want to consider. But you could also limit or extend a debate by saying, I move the debate to limited / or extended to whatever minutes you want to say. And that can be done ahead. This sets a time when all debate then will end and the question will come to the floor and can be voted on.
Okay,
But there are other ways to do this. You can limit speeches to 2 minutes instead of 10. You could increase the number of times a member could speak from 2 to 4. You could limit the time a member could speak to 3 times for no more than 2 minutes. But the motion to limit debate requires a 2/3 vote and is undebatable, and that was showed very clearly on the chart.
okay, and I have to say, I'm going to have to limit this for another couple minutes. That's about all we have here. So why don't we get to close debate immediately, and let's get to that
We'll
point.
shorten this as much as
Yeah,
possible.
yeah.
Yeah, so often it's important to close the debate. It's going on and on. And sometimes the people will say, call, question, or vote. That's not the way it's done. To call for the question, you need to make a motion. I move the previous question. So whatever is being debated will now be voted as to whether you want to close it or not. And again, it takes a 2/3 vote to close it. And once it's closed, there can be no more amendments or
Okay.
anything like that. And it's closed and the vote is taken. Okay, Elizabeth.
Okay.
Yes, yes, the chairman would say the question is now on the adoption of the question, and then he states in full the impending motion.
Okay.
And that question could be an amendment, not the main motion.
Right.
It's just the most recent thing that's up for debate.
Okay.
And if there's a vote, he says, sometimes the chairman wants to end it. So he can say, if there's no further debate, let's vote. He never says, question, or I call the question.
Okay.
That has to come from the audience.
Okay. I want to mention that your next meeting, now this is going to be this Saturday at 9 a.m. in Garden Grove, right? Where in
Right.
Garden Grove?
It's on Garden Grove Boulevard, and of course, we didn't bring the address.
Okay.
But you could call Mike Strasiuso and get
Okay.
all of that. And we usually have a carpool from the community center beginning at 8 o'clock.
Okay,
So
so
if somebody wants
Mike's,
to come, call Mike, let him know.
okay.
We'll be there to pick you up.
Okay, so Mike Straziuso's phone number, if you would like to find out more about the Roberts Rules Study Club or attend the meeting at 9 a.m. this Saturday, it's in Garden Grove. He'll give you the info on that. Mike's phone number is 949-830-8717. That's 949-830-8717. Ladies, good to have you on.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you very much.
Enjoyed
Thank
being
you
here.
so
Yes,
much.
it was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure, and we'll be right back. Yeah, I think this year.